I remember a guy pulling a gun on me right outside of the plant, and I was so crazy. I asked him had he kissed his mother that morning, because if he missed the opportunity, he wasn't going to get another chance. That side of my life served me, all because of how passionate I was about God. I saw myself in him, because I was one of those kids that didn't feel like I was being punished when my grandparents took me to church. They never had to bribe me with candy to sit still. Service was never too long for me. I was either sitting next to my grandmother, next to my mom, or 4 feet away from my grandfather, who was the chairman of Deacon Board. So, back in the day, they had the seats along the pulpit. That's where he used to sit in the number 1 seat. And I would sit right there. But I was not a kid that needed supervision in church, because I was just consumed and enraptured by the whole atmosphere. I didn't know God for myself, but I had a sense of God. I knew that there was times you needed to be quiet. I knew when to join in. And I saw that in him. He had a comfort level in the house of God, around the men and women of God, that I thought indicated that this was his future. And and I didn't force it to grow. I didn't put any extra fertilizer on it. He organically grew into his role, which is why he's so comfortable in it. I love the Western Channel. I love Law and Order, the old ones. Right now I'm binge watching Sherlock Holmes with Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce. Those are my favorite. Sherlock Holmes with Dr. Watson. But I would say Law and Order. Well, many people know Sweet Rain Records was originated by Andrew Ford, Lionel Doherty, and Bishop Crosby. And they started out as an all minority owned gospel music record company. I'm trying to remember the other 2 guys. Al Edmondson was involved as far as distribution was concerned. Al happened to be one of the first minority executives in the R&B industry. Capitol Records, all those big labels back in the day. Al was involved in that, so he came to help set up distribution for the company. There's 2 guys. Stephen Ford was involved as a musical consultant, I believe, in some form. And I can see the guy right now, but I can't call his name. There were 2 other guys that were involved. And so they started the company, and they were known as the Choir Boys. And I met Bishop Ford Sr. and became friends with Sr. and then met Andrew, and I became involved with the company from the finance end, financing the projects. So all the other companies at that time, with the exception of one, were owned by a Caucasian individual behind the scenes, or the funding for the project was being provided by men that were not black. So I come along, meet Andy and them, hear what their vision is, and started to finance the projects. And in that time, we discovered some of the still hottest people. Hezekiah Walker, Bruce Parham, Wilmington Chester Mass Choir, Southeast Inspirational Youth Choir, in which Yolanda Adams was 16. So we met her when she was a teenager and singing her head off. We recorded James Cleveland's Mass Choir at least twice. The youth mass choir, I believe, twice. Some historic churches, institutional radio choir out of New York, and those famous people that sang with them. And we became a small minority-owned company, minority finance company, that was unique in the industry. Several Grammys to our and multiple nominations. Traveled around the country discovering groups. Many nights in the studio, but it was there was not, I can say without equivocation, there was not a record company that could produce a choir sound like Sweet Rain could. We just had that, and part of that was Andy's ear, Bishop Ford Jr.'s ear rather, and Lionel's participation, and then I discovered a gift for editing and mixing. So we were able to do some incredible things there, and that carried over into our own label, Abundant Harvest Records here, and we were able to produce 3 top 25 hits on Billboard in about a 7-year period, which was unheard of. And we did it the old-fashioned way, radio airplay, people buying records, because we could not afford to do it any other way. But it's still, that music piece is a legacy of mine. I remember Last Power of God, I think it was, when Hezi came. And unbeknownst to me, Hezi had too much to say and told the crowd that, he owed his career partially to your bishop, and everybody's like, and then he told a little bit of the story, and I started getting mixtapes in the mail and folk knocking on my door, can I bring you my tape, just because they never knew. I never talk about it, that I remember the first time we saw Bruce Parham, he was maybe 12 and singing soprano. And he used to, he didn't have a musician at the time, so he had to bring his music on a boombox. And the boombox, of course, at that time was like this, where the handles looked like a trunk. And he would, and Bruce would sing, and, we picked him up and did his first 2 albums, I believe. Women's Chester Mass Choir, all those famous songs, Sovereign, He's Preparing Me, all those classics were recorded on Sweet Rain Records, and they're in the hymn book, so we did some good work, and it was an exciting time. Sly and the Family Stone. On the secular side. My favorite singers, Darryl Coley was one of my favorites. I love John Key. The new guys, who's that guy from, came to sing for us a couple times. I love William Murphy. And what's this guy? He's got a biblical name. Zacardi Cortez. I think he's really gifted. Two of my favorite singers, locally, Rodney Harris. 2 guys I don't hear anymore, Reverend John Vaughn, out of Trenton, New Jersey, Reverend Chris Harris, out of Chicago, Illinois, and a young man that came to sing for us recently. Plays the organ from Trenton. Felton Rowe, one of my favorite singers. Yeah. I said Sly and the Family Stone right from the gate. Yeah, I gotta give him credit. Yeah. Has to be either the original Magnificent Seven and Godfather Part 1. Right now, I'm not reading any, I'm writing several. And for some reason, the last 3 or 4 weeks, my creativity has been hampered. I don't know whether it's the season or the stress of everything, but creativity is very fragile. So I'm not reading. I'm reading articles now, right? On ministry and streaming, and because I'm trying to catch up with some things. So I'm reading a lot of technical stuff, just how-to types of things. And but when I am reading, I was a huge Harry Potter fan. Read every book twice. I know, huge Harry Potter. Lord of the Rings, read some of those. I love Ken Follett. I love the guy that did The Hunt for Red October and all those kind. I like that stuff that touches history and they bring it up in modern times. So, but right now I'm doing more writing and more researching than anything. I cook really well. I don't cook because I don't want to. I cook because I can't. I cook because I don't prefer to do it. But I cook really well, and I can clean better than almost anybody I know. Let me see. And I love doing laundry. I can do laundry and iron stuff. It looks like it came from the dry cleaners. So I got great pride. Everything I do, you know what's really weird? Everything I do has an element of fun to me. I love talking to old people. Track and field is a big deal for me. I was devastated because the Penn relays were canceled this year. I must have watched every track video from the Olympics just to try to fix the fix that I was missing, because there was no Penn relays this year. I'm a real track enthusiast. Watch track meets from around the world. Probably because I used to be able to run, but yeah, I think track and field, something I do for fun. But everything I do has a I don't look at anything as pure work. There's an enjoyment I get out of it. I like small things. I'm not a guy that takes a lot for. Real basic. And I actually do like cooking. I just don't do it. But every now and then I'll feel like it. And, make something for myself. I like baking. I make real good scratch pound cakes. Absolutely. You got to find joy in the things that you do. And I think that really is that whole opportunity obligation thing I was talking about. And I think we turn a lot of things that God gives us to fulfill us into obligations. It's the mindset. When opportunity brings a whole different set of feelings to a thing. Real early in life, I watched my mother. She said, if they hand you lemons, make lemonade out of it. And the older I got, the more I understood that. It really is a matter of perspective and performance. Perspective and performance. Because you can have a great perspective if you don't perform that way. I believe your perspective is false. So it not only it's like people saying, it's like people working for us selling us we work too much. But if we didn't work like we do, you wouldn't have the stuff you have. So you need to shut your mouth. You know, you're going to complain about the work ethic after you're benefiting from it. It's a silly argument. You know, now you want me to take off now that you got everything. Wait a minute, it has to be maintained now. You know, so I think I try not to allow things to give me a negative view of the things I have to do. Traveling, preaching, lecturing, teaching, writing, handing you a ministry that will last 100 years, past your lifetime, past our grandchildren's lifetimes, seeing thousands and thousands of people saved, just hitting another gear, and kind of enjoying some of the fruits of present opportunities that present new opportunities that continue to keep me challenged in life. I think I'm still excited about the work. Some of the conversations we had today, which we'll not make public, you know, God still has some stuff for you and I to do on a level that we never even. I'm so amazed at how God does things contrary to the season with us. I think people are going to be blown away by what God's going to do next. Sometimes when I think about my journey, coming from a broken home and all the disappointments of being, you know, a father who was not up to the task of raising me, a mother who took on the Herculean task of raising two boys, going to college, working 3 jobs all at the same time, moving us out of the projects, having moved from a real Tony neighborhood into the projects, and then watching her progressively move us out of the projects into a nicer neighborhood, into the place she ultimately wanted to live. I look at where my life is now, and there's not too many days a week that I'm not amazed. But I'm also clear that there's not a chapter in my life that, had it not been for the people that God had assigned to my life to be help to me, I wouldn't be here today. From my mother to my grandparents to, you know, 2 of my aunts in particular that I can think of, to the people of God that came along in my life, to folk that stood with us when we had our church battle when we first started, to a people that accepted obviously what was a different style of leadership, different style of relating, different style of teaching and preaching, to all those people who let me be me as I was going along. The people like yourself that supported and stood in when I could not do much for myself. You know, just when I look at the family that I was given, and you know, the things that we had to endure, and you know, I realized that God has been extraordinarily good to me. And as you know, did I think I'd ever reach 30 years in ministry? No. You know, at one point I was too busy trying to get through the next Sunday to be worrying about 30 years later. But here we are 30 years later, and my enthusiasm has not dimmed for what God has placed in my life. I'm just amazed that the energy, the people, the support, our leadership teams, the people of God that have been with us through the entire journey, and those that came on and took ownership of their ministries. I'm even thankful for those that we've lost along the way. That either they listened to God or somebody and removed themselves out of the pathway of what we were trying to do. I look at it all, I count it all joy. I have that weird perspective about it, You say I'm really saved and I'm extra saved, and because I can feed my enemies and stuff. But I've learned that we're in a position, you're in a position, I'm in a position to be gracious. And that God expects us to occupy that position like we know it. So I just look at 30 years of, it's gone by quickly. It's like a flash to me. And it just amazes me is that God is not finished with us yet. I'm astounded that His Word is still new to me, that I'm seeing things differently than I've ever seen them before, that I'm still able to be inspired, to minister to people like never before. It's been a tremendous walk with me. But it could not be done without the people of God, without Pastor Nick, without all the people God has sent to help us. It just could not have been achieved. Vision is never accomplished by yourself. True vision is never accomplished by yourself. And it's never accomplished simply at the expense of other people. So I'm just thankful.